Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
To another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a good show for you tonight. 8 stories in the hemp news lineup. Sitting right next to me is Mr. Casper Leach. Hey, Casper.
Happy Friday, and it is an awesome new year. I can't wait to see how the election turns out and all the cannabis voters go to the polls and make cannabis legal in as many states as they can.
Right and over in the wings is John Cornett, ready to blast out a couple cool tunes for us. Thank you, John.
Welcome.
And we'll be taking your phone calls in just a moment. Stay tuned. We'll bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
All right, our first story is from Washington, D.C. Provisions included in the fiscal year 2016 U.S. federal omnibus spending bill will continue to limit the federal government from taking punitive action against state-licensed individuals or operations that are acting in full compliance with the medical marijuana laws of their state. The provisions reauthorize Section 538 of the Continuing Appropriations Act of 2015, which states, quote, "None of the funds made available in this act to the Department of Justice may be used to prevent states from implementing their own state laws that authorize the use, distribution, possession, or cultivation of medical marijuana," end quote. Senate-backed amendments seeking to permit military veterans access to medical cannabis and to permit state-licensed marijuana businesses greater access to banking services were not included in the final version of the spending bill. But this bill's already led to federal courts throwing out several medical marijuana cases down in California. A couple weeks ago, Monday, January 4th, was the first day for license applications to enter Oregon's new recreational marijuana retail market. And the Oregon Liquor Control Commission had received 142 applications by the end of that Monday. 75 of the applications came from growers, most of them planning operations in Clackamas, Jackson, Lane, and Multnomah counties. Oregon doesn't plan to cap the number of marijuana licenses it will issue. According to a report from the Liquor Commission, the state will issue a total of 850 recreational licenses by the end of the year. Applications are being accepted from marijuana processors, retailers, wholesalers, producers, laboratories, and researchers, but as of Tuesday morning, no labs or researchers had applied. The counties with the largest number of applicants on the first day, according to the OLCC, are Multnomah County with 30 applications, Clackamas County with 18, Jackson County with 17, and Lane County with 16. Now, after 10 days, over 350 applications have been filed. Out of Aurora, Colorado, cannabis administration is associated with a decrease in migraine headache frequency, according to data published online in the journal Pharmacotherapy. Investigators at the University of Colorado Skaggs School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences retrospectively assessed cannabis effects on monthly migraine headache frequency in a group of 121 adults. The study participants had a primary diagnosis of migraine headache and been recommended cannabis by a physician for migraine treatment. They'd participated in at least one follow-up medical visit. The authors of the study reported that 85% of the subjects reported a decrease in migraine frequency, and 12% indicated that the use of cannabis prior to migraine onset would abort the headaches. The authors concluded, quote, "Migraine headache frequency decreased from 10.4 to 4.6 headaches per month with the use of medical marijuana. Further research should be performed to determine if there is a preferred delivery method, dose, and strain of medical marijuana for migraine headache therapy as well as potential long-term effects of medical marijuana, end quote. Although case reports have previously documented the effects of cannabinoids for migraine relief, no prospective trials have yet to evaluate cannabis use in migraine patients. Nonetheless, scientists for some time have theorized that cannabinoids may play a role in migraine regulation. Writing in 2007 in the European Journal of Critical Pharmacology, Italian researchers reported that patients with chronic migraines possess significantly lower levels of endogenous cannabinoids in anandamide and 2-arachidonyl glycerol, or 2-AG, in their platelets compared to age-matched controls. The study concludes, quote, "These data support the potential involvement of a dysfunctioning of the endocannabinoid and serotonergic system in the pathology of chronic migraine and medication overuse headaches," end quote. This study, Effects of Medical Marijuana on Migraine Headache Frequency in an Adult Population, appears online in Pharmacotherapy. On the other side of our nation, the Massachusetts Secretary of State's office last month certified over 70,000 signatures submitted by the campaign to regulate marijuana like alcohol, clearing the way for the petition to move forward toward the 2016 state ballot. Initiative campaign manager Will Luzier said, quote, "This confirms that the people of Massachusetts want to vote on an initiative to regulate marijuana and end the practice of punishing adults for using a substance less harmful than alcohol. We're excited to have reached this milestone and look forward to the legislative debate over the benefits of ending prohibition and regulating and taxing marijuana," end quote. The petition has now been transmitted to the Massachusetts legislature. They've begun that debate. If the legislature does not adopt the measure, initiative backers must collect 10,792 additional signatures in the month of June to place the initiative on the November 2016 ballot. The proposed initiative would allow adults 21 and older to possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana and grow a limited number of marijuana plants in their home, similar to home brewing. It would create a tightly regulated system of licensed marijuana retail outlets, cultivation facilities, product manufacturing facilities, and testing facilities, which would be overseen by a commission similar to the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, or ABCC. It would provide local governments with the authority to regulate and limit the number of marijuana establishments in Massachusetts cities and towns, and create a 3.75% excise tax on the retail marijuana sales, in addition to the standard local sales tax of 9%. It would allow local governments to establish an additional local sales tax of up to 2%. Medical marijuana will not be subject to these additional taxes. For more information on this, you can visit regulatemassachusetts.org. That's regulatemassachusetts.org. Down in the Southwest, a campaign to legalize marijuana in Arizona is nearing its goal of 150,000 ballot signatures to qualify for this November's ballot as well. The starters announced that they had started the petition drive on Wednesday. The initiative would give Arizona voters the opportunity to legalize cannabis for recreational use. It would establish a network of licensed marijuana stores where the sales would be taxed. The name of their organization, just like in Massachusetts, different organization, but they have the same name, Campaign to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol, and is just a few thousand signatures short of the 150,000 needed to qualify. The group is aiming for 225,000 signatures to make up for invalid ones by the summer. Under Arizona's proposed Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, adults 21 and older could possess up to 1 ounce of cannabis and grow up to 6 plants in their home without a license, as long as the plants are in a secured area. In California, proponents of a California ballot measure to legalize, control, regulate, and tax adult use of marijuana announced earlier this month that Adult Use of Marijuana Act, or the AUMA, has been formally endorsed by the state's NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, comprised of 52 branches and more than 30 youth chapters across the state of California, and it's part of the nation's oldest civil rights organization, the NAACP, which voted to endorse over the weekend and joins a coalition which already includes physicians, environmental leaders, business owners, small farmers, and social justice advocates. Alice Huffman, longtime president of California's state NAACP, said, quote, "Creating a legal, responsible, and regulated framework for marijuana is a predominantly civil rights issue and it's long overdue. The current system is counterproductive, financially wasteful, and racially biased, and the people of California have repeatedly called for it to be fixed. This measure will ensure that California is not unjustly criminalizing responsible adults, while also ensuring that our children are protected, while the state receives hundreds of millions of dollars for vital government and community-based programs, end quote, Huffman said. Last week, the initiative was cleared for circulation. Becoming the first governor in the United States to do so, Vermont Governor Peter Schulman last week in his final State of the State address called on lawmakers to pass legislation legalizing and regulating marijuana. The governor also declared the war on drugs a failure and expressed desire to continue emphasizing a health-based approach to drug policy by expanding treatment and overdose prevention programs, as well as by removing the stigma associated with drug use and addiction. Vermont Governor Schulman said, quote, "The outdated war on drugs has also failed, and there's no greater example than our nation's marijuana laws," end quote. Governor Schulman stressed that marijuana legalization measure should contain a legal market to keep marijuana and other drugs out of the hands of underage kids. A tax imposed must be low enough to wipe out the black market and get rid of illegal drug dealers, and the revenue from legalization must be used to expand addiction prevention programs. Also, they want to strengthen law enforcement's capacity to improve the response to impaired drivers. In South America, in Bogota, Colombia, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos has signed legislation into law to regulate the licensed production and exportation of cannabis for medicinal purposes. Under the new policy, those seeking to grow medicinal cannabis commercially or manufacture cannabis-based medicinal products in Colombia may apply with government agencies for licensure. Federal regulators will also grant permits to those seeking to export medicinal cannabis products out of the country. President Santos said that the goal of the policy is for patients to be able to access medications made in Colombia that are safe, high quality, and accessible. It also is an opportunity to promote scientific research in our country, end quote. While existing law allows for personal possession and cultivation of cannabis in Colombia, the plant's commercial production, manufacture, and sale were not permitted. Federally licensed medical marijuana production and distribution is presently authorized in Canada, Israel, and the Netherlands. In 2013, Uruguay officials approved legislation authorizing the retail production and sales of cannabis to those age 18 and older. That's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. We're going to jump over to John Cornett. Hey, John.
Hey, Paul. How you doing? You know,
Very
Judy
well.
Judy can address the problem of. Can you turn down this mic here a little bit? Just Judy can address the problem of whether or not a problem, but the question of whether or not cannabis works for migraines. She has not had to go to the emergency room one time in the last several years since she's begun using cannabis oil, whereas in the past she would go to the emergency room about 3 or 4 times a year. So that'll tell you a little bit. Anyway, this is a song you think you know about, Paul. Oh, it's so nice to be stoned. It's so nice to be stoned. A proclamation was issued today by the government of the USA. Up to 99 years in jail for illegal possession and sale. How can they think they're right when they're wrong? Guess they've never been stoned. Well, it's so nice to be stoned. 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 Marijuana is the killer weed. It's gonna be the end of you and me. So says the TV news report. Excuse me while I take a snort. Let's get together now and take a toke. of that magic smoke. It's so nice to be stoned. It's so nice to be stoned. Well, it's so nice to be stoned. Well, it's so nice to be stoned. The bombs and tanks and riot gas can't keep me from smoking grass. Now listen to me, brother, I'll tell you true. Marijuana is good for you. Because it's so nice to be stoned. Well, it's so nice to be stoned. Well, it's so nice to be stoned. Gonna sing it from the rooftop. It's so nice to be stoned. Well, it's so nice to be stoned.
All right.
It's so nice to be stoned. That's it.
All right. Thanks, John. You're having fun with that one.
That's right.
I love that song since the 70s.
We love that song.
That is a great one. Thanks for doing that. How you doing, Casper?
Fine, thank you.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
As I spent so much time at the New Year's Eve party, I finally had a chance to get in and showered last night and
Okay.
get ready for the, start the new year. Yay, the party's over with finally, right?
I guess so. I
Cool.
guess so. It's been a few weeks. Last week we had a tribute show for our friend John.
You guys did a
Trudell,
show
who
last
passed
week?
away. Well, for John Trudell, it was we combined with the show before ours, A Growing Concern, Jim Lockhart's show.
Well, I was experimenting with Willie Nelson Bud, so excuse me if my party lasted more than a week or two.
Okay. Well, that's better than it's Whiskey River, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
If you're out there and you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. We'll be taking calls right up to the top of the hour. So if you have a question about cannabis, its medical use, ending prohibition around the country and the world, or industrial hemp, we'll be happy to talk about that. So give us a call at 503-288-4442. So what did you think about the news tonight?
Which kind of news? I mean,
Oh,
you had a variety
all
there
these
from
different
Massachusetts
initiatives going
around.
on.
Yeah, you had a lot of initiatives. How many states do we have total with people going down to the polls to make
Well,
cannabis
right now,
legal?
for sure, we've got the state of Nevada is going to vote on it for sure. That's already
All
qualified.
right.
Massachusetts, as we said in the news report,
Arizona.
is close to qualifying, as is Arizona. It looks like there could be another initiative that's a better initiative in Ohio. So we're
Anything
gonna
is
have
better than
several
what they had
states.
the last time in Ohio.
I hope so. I hope so. I think that.
Well, last time they had an initiative that said, let's turn the entire cannabis industry over to Satan.
Well, to 10 people
Right.
who paid for it, 10 rich people who
Right.
paid
And they
$30
raised
million.
signatures for that. So amazing. People will, sure, I'll sign for Satan to have it. So maybe it'll be better this time, right?
I hope so.
All
I hope
right.
so. Our
Cool.
friend Don Wirtschafter of the Ohio Hempery, an attorney there, longtime activist that helps all around the world with hemp issues. He is from Ohio, and he definitely opposes
And he
that.
admits it.
And he admits it.
I have friends who are from Cleveland who,
They won't admit it?
nah,
Well, what can
no.
you say?
right.
What can you say? And then Colombia is going to allow medical marijuana, and they'll even allow the exportation of it. Maybe we can import some if we don't have enough.
Well-
they're cutting off medical growers and the size of their gardens. So
That's another thing. Didn't our voters have one approach to what we thought we wanted? And it seems like
the legislature's changed it
a
now.
handful of humans have just gone in there and went, I don't like this. I think I'll do this.
Yeah, the legislature in their House Bill 3400 made a number of changes that are bad for medical patients. They're going to consider several changes to their changes in the short legislative session that's coming up in the month of February. So if you're here in Oregon, as most of our viewers probably are, then I urge you to contact your state legislator.
And speaking of all those changes, goodbye, David Bowie. We will miss you.
That's true. He walked on here earlier this week, as did also a longtime friend of our movement, a friend of mine, and a person who gathered more signatures than any other person here in the state of Oregon for legalization, Mr. John Walsh. Mr. John Walsh passed away back on Sunday the 3rd, early in the morning before dawn on Sunday the 3rd. So we'll be having a memorial for John Walsh at the corner of Southeast 72nd and Holgate, in what had formerly been the other spot, which closed on January 1st. And John actually went to the New Year's Eve party that took place there. And so he was there back on January the 1st and passed away on the 3rd. And we'll be having a benefit for him, our memorial, at 4 p.m., 4 to 6 p.m. this coming Sunday, the 17th. So that's open to the public. And, we do have a phone call standing by. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi,
Hey,
you talking to me?
I'm talking to you.
Hi. So I was wondering, how come the FDA won't legalize the RSO oils that you can get from marijuana, the THCs and the CBDs, to be able to cure cancer? Recently, my dad got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and it's on the liver as well. So I have been doing lots and lots of research this last month about it. And I've seen, videos of, cells, cancer cells being killed off by the THC right practically on contact. Mm-hmm. And I just don't understand why, they won't regulate it and let a doctor be able to give it to a cancer patient when they have so many different story after story of people where it has, shrunken the tumor, and then it's completely undetectable, and the doctors are all baffled by it. And, just this last week, we've had like 3 different celebrities die. Cancer, 69 years old. And I don't understand why. Can you help me with that?
It's not really about drugs. It's all about money and the centralization of economic and political control. It's really about fuel. And this is the reason. You see we have hemp oil burning here. This is hemp seed oil. It's not RSO oil. You take the seeds from the buds and you crush them and make a fuel. And that is by a factor of at least 3 to 1 and maybe 5 or 8 times to 1 more productive than any other seed oil crop. So you can take that seed oil, pour it right into any engine, and turn the key. And it would be cheaper than petroleum if our farmers were allowed to cultivate hemp without regard to its THC content, but according to the varieties that make the most seeds and fiber and medicine. So it's really the petrochemical, as our late great friend Gatewood Galbraith, the Kentucky attorney, said, the petrochemical, pharmaceutical, military, industrial, transnational, corporate, elite, fascist sons of a bitches. They gave us marijuana prohibition. And so, just also this past week, Oregon's, Portland's own United States Congressman Earl Blumenauer sent a letter to President Obama telling him that in his final year in office, he should take marijuana completely off the schedule of controlled drugs. And in that case, you wouldn't even need a prescription to grow it and process it. No one's ever died from it. So I'm very proud of our Oregon congressman to do that. We also have the backing of our 2 Oregon senators, Senator Wyden and Senator Merkley, who have both also come out for changing federal marijuana law. Not as aggressively as Blumenauer in terms of removing it from the controlled substance list, but definitely to downgrade and allow its use by the federal government. So the primary reason is money. The pharmaceutical companies don't want to deal with it because cannabis is in the oldest pharmacopoeia, so they can't patent it. They can't. They could take extracts from it and patent it, and some companies are trying to do that. But the herb itself cannot be patented. And
Is that because it's natural and it's grown?
yeah, it's natural and it's grown, and it was in the pharmacopoeia, in the list of drugs that were out there 120 years ago. And so anything that was in the list of pharmacological substances, I think it was like 1920 or before, cannot be patented. And
Wow. So is there anything I can do as a citizen, like writing to maybe a different senator or, the ones that you're talking about, to get something going so that that law can be changed?
Yeah,
so
it could
that
definitely
can
help to
happen?
do that. And to back Senator Wyden, Merkley, and our Congressman Earl Blumenauer here in Oregon's 3rd District, and contact them and our state legislators, especially right now. You can go into these dispensaries and buy this, but it's very expensive. But this stuff can grow on trees. It should be very inexpensive.
Well, and it makes me think, and I hate having to come to this conclusion, that it makes me think that all the money that the doctors and the pharmaceutical people are making off of these pills that they're given to cancer patients with chemotherapy in them and stuff, that are, costing people, $2,000, $3,000 a month just to be able to live. And it's like, I've heard several stories of that's why they don't want to,
Yeah, like I said, it's about money.
it's
not
about
about-
money, which is so sad,
So many people are dying from
so many
cancer.
people are dying. And this is the first really
I
intimate.
I
type-
make cannabis, and I've given away, personally grown and given away over the past 12, 13 years, well over 3 tons, over 6,000 pounds of free marijuana to patients. But I'm limited in the amount I can grow, and I have people contacting me every day of the week trying to get that RSO for their patients, for themselves or their relatives or friends who need it to treat their cancer.
Well, exactly. And you basically need like a good ounce a day.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's a large quantity to come by. And I don't know what kind of a place to, get it from and what magazine or people are being really legit about it or not. I'm kind of just walking.
Are you here in Oregon? Do you live in the state of Oregon?
I do. I live in Oregon City, Oregon.
So give us a call at that number that's there on your screen. We'll be happy to try to help you. But any of these licensed dispensaries out there, a lot of them have RSO. They can't sell it recreationally. They can only sell it to medical patients. So if you're, was it your father you said? If your
Yes.
father is
He
willing.
had his very first chemotherapy appointment today.
Ah, okay. So yeah, it doesn't feel bad yet, but then the first one's not as bad. It gets a little worse.
Yeah,
But,
well,
over
we're all
time.
just completely, full of anxiety and scared and want to do
Sure.
anything, of course, to help save him.
Does he have a medical marijuana permit?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you can go to those dispensaries right now and find it, but it is very expensive.
Yes, it is.
It's not as expensive as the chemotherapy treatments, but most insurances will cover that.
Right.
Where they won't cover the medical marijuana, though they should. And so.
Well, thank you so much for all of your time. I really
you're welcome.
appreciate it.
Well, thanks for your call. Good luck to your father and you, and I hope you find the medicine you need and he recovers fully.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Yes, and hearing about John, and then, of course, Natalie Cole, who lost her life to liver cancer and liver complications from
David
hepatitis.
Bowie.
David, makes you also ponder the necessity of making organ donations. I would encourage you to make sure that's checked in the back of your driver's license, state ID, and to also go down to the hospital on your free time and see what other organs you might be able to donate to help keep somebody alive. You have no idea how important that is and how many people are actually on a waiting list and would truly benefit from your caring gesture.
We have a video clip we're going to run now of our Oregon Senator Ron Wyden. He was on the KATU show Your Voice, Your Vote recently. I've been on that show a few times, and he's been on it more than me, but he's going to talk about changing the banking laws regarding cannabis. So here's this video clip.
Stories for Oregon in 2015 was implementing our state legalizes recreational marijuana and really sets up a new legal industry for our state. But there are tensions with the federal law, which still outlaws pot. In fact, there's some confusion now about whether the post office can even mail newspapers with ads for marijuana. Say, for instance, if a pot shop was to buy an ad, what's being done to figure all this out? Because USPS isn't supposed to send that out.
What we have to decide is, with marijuana essentially being something that the states are given the leading role in terms of regulation and overseeing, when the voters of a state actually go out and they're held accountable, they vote for something, then it seems to me that the federal government ought to step in and not overturn the will of Oregon voters or state voters. And so we have been up against this with respect to banking. We've been up against it with respect to taxes. Now we are up against it with respect to the Postal Service and mailings. But for me, you can debate all you want whether or not you think marijuana ought to be legal. Oregon voters have decided that question now. And I have consistently respected Oregon voters. For example, on our Death with Dignity law, the House of Representatives voted to get rid of it in Washington, D.C. I filibustered to protect it, and I said, I'm not going to let the will of Oregon voters be tossed in the trash can. That is still my position with respect to banking and taxes and the Postal Service and marijuana. I'm going to do everything I can to carry out the will of Oregon voters.
Well, thank you, Ron White.
There you go. Nice.
So Jeff Merkley, the other U.S. senator, is also in favor of that. And so we just need, about another 200 legislators and 48 more senators to get on board with that, and they can change it. And as Earl Blumenauer encouraged the President Obama to just take marijuana off the scheduled substance. Everybody in the federal government wants to pass the buck. Obama has said, he's got to let Congress do it, and Congress could do it, but he could do it himself. Right. He has the power to remove cannabis from the federal controlled substances list, or to move it down from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2, 3, 4, or 5, where it could be prescribed. Schedule 1 is the most restrictive class. It says that substance doesn't have a medical use. And we know that cannabis does. In fact, here in Oregon and in Iowa, marijuana has been dropped down to a Schedule 2 drug. And so technically, it could be prescribed, but pharmacies aren't going to do it as long as the federal government can come in and shut them down. When
he took office, he said he wanted to be like Lincoln, which a lot of people thought, well, anyway. But he wanted to end the Civil War, And here is a civil war going on all around the world that he could end. And if he ended this global war on drugs, I am pretty confident there'd be a statue of him in every town, and that would certainly appease his ego. So, right? So it would make sense on a variety of levels that he would do that.
I hope he does. I hope he does. And so, and I'm proud of our Congressman Earl Blumenauer for pushing him in that direction. It was so inspiring to see this lengthy letter he wrote him just before he gave his State of the Union speech, saying, you've done a good job in not enforcing federal law on states with medical and recreational marijuana legalization, but you should need to go all the way and take it off the list of controlled substances. That hasn't been really espoused by many in terms of the federal government, so it was good to see that.
I must say, he has a lovely wife. She seems rather charming. Michelle just seems to be a stellar individual. I don't know how he ended up with her, but she
politics
is just amazing.
Always divide people, but personally, I think he, along with Jimmy Carter, is one of the best presidents of my lifetime. So, I didn't catch a joke there.
Oh, well, I couldn't figure out how he got lucky enough to be with her, because she is just amazing. She really is beautiful, bright, clever, charming, passionate, and then there's him.
I think he's a good president myself.
They're like
There's a lot of people who don't.
They're like the Sonny and Cher of politics. One is tall and beautiful, and the other one should go skiing.
Okay, we know what happened to Sonny. But anyway, we have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller. Hello. I thought we had a caller. Maybe not. Anyway, if you have a question for us, you can call us at that number right there on your screen. It's 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442.
I have a question.
Okay.
Are we going to have a hemp industry in this state yet? Are we going to have farmers growing hemp oil? Are we going to have hemp jobs in this state? Are we going to be making hemp clothing and hemp paper?
Yes. Yes, we are. And there were 6 farmers who grew hemp last year.
Really?
They were all experimental. There's no market for them to sell it at yet. But, you know, that's what happened up in Canada. They legalized industrial hemp. Now we're talking now about the low THC varieties.
All right.
What they do with low THC hemp is they breed the THC out, and that mainly means they get rid of almost all the flowers, because that's where most of the THC is. By getting rid of the flowers, they get rid of the seeds. By getting rid of the seeds, they get rid of the oil and the protein, and the oil is the key part. By getting rid of the oil, it doesn't compete with petroleum.
Wow.
But in Canada, they allowed the cultivation. A lot of farmers planted it into the ground, and then they didn't have anywhere to sell it, so a lot of farmers quit growing it, and slowly the market's developed, and now they have a huge market that they don't have enough cannabis seeds, primarily, to meet the demand. And so,
so where are we at here in this state? Are we?
We had 6 farmers who had a license last year to cultivate it.
Okay.
And the Oregon State University officials have been stopping any graduate students from doing research on industrial hemp.
Oh my.
But our senators have gone, and Blumenauer has gone and pushed Oregon State to allow those studies, and in fact they got a provision in the United States federal farm bill that allows research. So hopefully we'll be seeing more of those studies in the near future. We have Andrea Herman on, not next week but the week after, along with Joy Beckworth, who are doing a hempcrete, hemp building material seminar here in Portland in a couple of weeks, and they'll be talking more about industrial hemp.
Cool.
We have a caller standing by, though. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello?
Hello.
How you doing?
Pretty well. How are you?
I'm fine. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
I'm to start off with, it's not my question, but I had cancer at 43, and I've been using cannabis ever since, and I am 59 now. I'm 3rd generation cancer. My mom and my grandma both died of it. So I found the knowledge interesting that the last caller had.
Uh-huh.
But what I was wondering is, and this might be a repetitive question, but I think a lot of people are wondering, do the OMMP permit people get a discount still now that it's legal?
Yes, yeah. There's been a new tax of 25% that's been attached to recreational marijuana sales, and the medical stores are allowed till the end of this year to sell 1/4 ounces of dried flowers to any adult over the age of 21. And now there's a 25% tax on that. Some stores are putting the tax into the cost and paying that tax themselves. Some of the medical dispensaries are adding that overtly to the top of the price. So, but you know, it's up to the store owners how they do it, as long as they pay that 25% tax. So, but for medical patients, there is no tax on that, and medical patients are not limited to the 1/4 ounce of flowers. They can buy extracts, RSO or Phoenix Tears oil for cancer treatment. They can buy edibles, and they can buy up to 1.5 pounds of marijuana at these dispensaries. But adults over the age of 21 that don't have a medical permit are only limited to 7 grams, where people who have a medical permit can buy over 700 grams. And it's not taxed, and it's generally cheaper. I've heard prices as low as $70, $80 an ounce.
Well, that sounds good.
Yeah,
Okay, well, I appreciate your information, and you guys have a good night and a good weekend.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for your call. Good luck.
Okay.
Good luck,
Good
and
night.
hope you can keep Cancer
Thank
3
you.
further. You're welcome. Well, we're down to about 15 minutes left. If you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4442. That's 503-288-4442. Also, if you want to come down here on a Friday night, we have a studio audience. You're welcome to come down and to the show at Portland Community Media. And we have them most Friday nights. We've had a little break here over the holiday season, but it is open to the public. So, Casper, you have a radio network. Unbelievably. This
do.
guy has a radio network.
I'm a broadcasting network by accident, and we got a team of people who are working diligently to end prohibition all around the world, and we would appreciate it if you tuned in and checked us out. We're also on the Roku TV network, so we are now expanding into video, so that's a lot of fun, to say the least. We have people like, Judge James Gray and Andre Herman Paul Stanford on the programming network that are sharing the information about how important it is to end prohibition. You can find us on Roku. You can find us on Google. You can find us on iTunes. You can find us on iHeartRadio. All the apps that are available for your smart devices, we have as well. And, of course, we're on Twitter. It's about 40,000 people following us on Twitter and Facebook. So if you want to find a way to make your friends know how important it is to end the prohibition, we got free MP3s you can download. We got free cartoons you can download, and we are now starting to grow marijuana live on the site. If you go to timeforhemp.com and click on the grow button, it'll take you to our grow page, and there we've got a camera on our new garden 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so you can tune in and see how marijuana grows. Make it a point to share us with your friends. And Paul, thank you for the shameless plug.
Certainly, certainly. And if you or a loved one need help finding a doctor who can help you with medical marijuana, we have referrals we can send you or help you find doctors all across the country. If you have any of those conditions or any others you think medical marijuana might help, you can call us at, here in the Portland area, it's 503-281-5100. That's 503-281-5100. If you're outside of the Portland area, you can call us toll free at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. And we will be happy to help you find a doctor who can help with getting you a recommendation for medical marijuana. So that's what we do. So, again, if you have a question or comment for us tonight, though, here's a third number, 503-288-4442. And we do have a caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hello?
Howdy.
Yes, my question is, how many of the 180 dispensaries that we have now in Portland are going to change over to recreational, and how many they're going to leave for medical use?
You know, I'm not sure, to be honest. I think some of them are going to do both. I can't really answer that question right now. A lot of them are going to be changing because they can make more money and have a bigger variety, but I'm not sure how many will be left. You know, time alone will tell at this point. I haven't been out there talking to these guys, but my understanding is they're making more money and have a lot more influx of patients.
Well, I have been talking to them, and I think that there's going to be a lot of greed out there, and I really hope that they take into consideration the medical patients that
Me too.
really need the medicine, you know, over the, the getting all the ducats.
I agree. The patients need their help. I know a lot of them are heading for the money. Like you said, there's this green rush out there where people are concentrating on greed. And so I can't answer that question, though. I wish I could.
Well, I was wondering if there's somebody that we could contact to maybe try to advocate for the medical, and like maybe they should set a limit on how many really can go for the rec and how many must stay medical.
I think that's a good idea. You know, the best way to do that is to contact the dispensaries individually. That's a lobbying job, or contact the state legislators. They're getting ready for this next legislative session. The most effective thing to do is to figure out who your representative is in Salem. You vote on a state senator and a state representative. So those are two people that are being paid, not a great deal. Oregon legislators are paid a pittance, really, but they're paid to form these laws, and they're there to represent you, since if you're in their district. So figure out who they are and call them up and tell them your concerns. Right. And then the other thing is to go directly to the dispensary owners and tell them, as apparently you have with a few, that you need medical marijuana to stay available. And you know, if these guys go out of business, that opens the door for medical patients and just goes to recreational. That leaves the door open for other people to jump in there to supply medical. So unfortunately, the state has these crazy limits out there that they're trying to impose, and we need to have those removed. You know, this over-regulation of cannabis has given us some insane prices. This stuff should be cheap. You know, to grow this indoors, it's about 50 cents a gram. To grow it outdoors, it's 15 cents a gram. If you can grow, that's about what it cost me to grow it in 24 plants in an urban garden here in the city of Portland, about 15 cents a gram. There's not much labor associated with that. We don't trim it. That doesn't include the trimming costs. But if I could grow it in a big field, I think I could drop that down to a nickel a gram. Well, something that's a nickel a gram shouldn't be selling for $10, $20 a gram.
That's true.
And so there's a lot of people that are raking the sick and dying over the coals with this. And, you know, their karma will catch up and run over their dogma, I hope. But, you know, we've got to keep pushing the truth and make cannabis cheap and plentiful and replace petroleum with hemp seed oil. And so that's what I'm going to continue working for. I don't know if you know it. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. But I've been working for marijuana law reform since I went to a protest in Washington, D.C. a week after my 18th birthday back in 1978, well over 35 years ago now. If I have to work another 35 years, I'll keep doing it so that we can have patient access and replace petroleum with hemp, which will stop global warming, wipe out world hunger, stop deforestation, help our environment. Like my late great friend John Trudell said, it's really earth medicine, and it's medicine for us and our bodies, but it's medicine for our planet as well. And so there's still more work to do.
There sure is. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
We have another call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yes, thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I missed hemp stalk this year. Were you allowed to smoke in the park, or did you have to go someplace else?
No, we were not allowed to smoke in the park. We tried to set up a adults-only ID smoking area. The police told us to take it down, so we did. Our job is, when we do it, is to have our event continue. And so unfortunately, they did not allow an adult smoking area. We'll see what we can do this year. We already have, you know, last year we didn't have our permit until the end of August. And so that's why we didn't have our event until the middle of October. It's kind of late in the season.
So you're going to start early with the permit then?
We've already got the permit. We started early last year. We filed the permit in October for the following year. So we filed the permit, you know, 11 months in advance. But last year, come November 7th, they turned our permit down. And so then we fought through the courts, and finally we got the mayor to allow us to have our Hempstock Festival. This is the second year in a row that the city of Portland Parks Department and Police Bureau opposed our permit application. This year, they did not oppose it, and we already have our permit in process with a tentative date of September 27th and 28th.
Wonderful. I was also thinking about, did you ever think about changing the venue instead of having it at Waterfront Park, having it at PIR, Portland International Raceway?
Yeah, we have considered that, and we had it at some other parks. We've had it at Selwood Park. We've had it on the East Side Promenade on the other side of the river. We've had it out at Kelly Point Park at the confluence of the Willamette and Columbia Rivers. That's a beautiful location, but there's no parking out there, and the Port of Portland opposes us being out there.
Okay.
And so...
I think Portland International Raceway would be able to be good since most of it's outdoors and everyone can smoke, right?
Well, again, that's city property, so I'm not sure whether they will allow us to smoke. I know some people have looked at it. We'll give it a shot, but right now we've already got our permit in place for Waterfront Park. You know, we shouldn't have to go hide out in the corner. Transportation down in mass transit to the Waterfront Park is pretty easy. But, you know, we'll look at further options for years to come. But PIR, we've considered that, but we haven't been able to get their approval either.
Okay. Hey, thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling. Well, we're just about out of time here. Let's see. Do we have another video ready? Yeah. Here's Portland Mayor our mayoral candidate Ted Wheeler talking about cannabis legalization. We'll be back in just a second.
It's now regulated. Some of you know that in my capacity as state treasurer, I've been pushing very hard at the federal level for clarity on the banking rules with the U.S. Treasury. As you know, the U.S. Treasury issued so-called guidance that was supposed to help commercial banks better meet the needs of what I say is a legal and regulated industry in a number of states. And in turn, what happened was when the Treasury issued their guidance, it created more confusion and caused a number of banks to actually pull away from their marijuana banking relationships. The concern on the part of banks, of course, is they are regulated by a number of federal agencies, and they also have federal banking charters that are at risk if they do anything in opposition to what the Treasury sets as guidance. Long story short, the guidance basically put banks in the position of regulating individual marijuana clients to ensure that product wasn't sold to minors or shipped across state lines. Those are very onerous burdens that are not put on other legal and regulated industries. And so regretfully, commercial banks started to back away. I'm very concerned about that issue as treasurer. I think it creates a public safety issue, number one.
Okay, so that's Portland mayoral candidate Ted Wheeler, who is one of the many people running for Portland mayor. I am not running for Portland mayor, but you have a radio network.
I do, and I considered running for mayor, but people said I'm too grumpy. So maybe, I don't know. I don't care. Nonetheless, do go to timeforhemp.com and check us out. We are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all cannabis, all the time. And like a good joint, we are always best when you share us with your friends. Thank you, Paul.
And if you have a loved one, a friend, or you yourself need help locating a doctor who can help you with medical marijuana, give us a call. Here in Portland, number's 503-281-5100. That's 503-281-5100. Around the rest of the country, you can call us toll free at 1-800-723-0188. We're going to go out with another great tune from Mr. John Cornett. Thanks for doing that again, John. And again, we'll have a memorial for our friend John Walsh this weekend at what was the other spot at 72nd and Southeast Harold Street, 4 to 6 p.m. Hope to see you there. Have a good night, and remember to help us restore hemp.
We like mangoes, lemon pledge. We like cheese too, Hawaiian Big Bud. Life is good. Life is good. Oh yeah. Life is good for you and me. So good. So good. So good. So good. We like God, but Northern Lights